see. Lisa, you don't happen to have another one of these, do you?
You might try. You should be able to balance it.
And that one.
Wait, how? Balance it how?
Okay, wait till after my live shot and I'll show you how.
Okay. Oh, you're...
We're doing a live one. I don't know, they just sometimes do bump shots.
We're just waiting for a few more folks to arrive and we'll be starting soon.
Sweet.
Can we get in front of it?
Yeah.
Sorry, we're doing a weird bump shot. I don't know.
Forest one. I never want to. Gonna see if I can get her.
Just let me know when y'all are ready. Are y'all ready? Okay, awesome. Thank you guys for coming out today. Really appreciate it. We're a coalition of grassroots organizations in Charleston County who are advocating for increased transparency and accountability in Jamal Sutherland's death. We want to start with our deepest condolences to the Sutherland family. We're so incredibly sorry that this happened to your son, and it should not have. And we're here to try to push that transparency and accountability to hold folks accountable for this tragic death. I'm going to pass it to Fernando Soto from the Charleston Immigrant Coalition, and we have a number of speakers signed up today to talk more about this.
Before Fernando, hello all, before my colleague Fernando joins us, I want to first extend, on behalf of the group that I'm with today, extend condolences to the Sutherland family. We don't take this issue lightly, and we know that the work that we're trying to do today, the message that we're trying to send, is our way of showing solidarity with the family, and it's our way of expressing our condolences as well. So we want to observe that family and hold them in this moment right now. So condolences to the Sutherland family, and Fernando will come next.
Thank you. We are here today to join in the calls for transparency, accountability, and more importantly, justice. Our coalition played an important role in the power change at the Charleston County Sheriff's Department. We called on the community to stand behind us, and you delivered. Now we're calling on you to hold the Sheriff's Department accountable along with every jurisdiction in this county. The video we saw yesterday from Mayor Keith Summey through the North Charleston Police Department was a well-edited production shifting blame. Let us not be distracted by their power struggles or narratives. Our focus is to demand transparency in the death of Jamal Sutherland. Our focus is to demand accountability. We want to know who has the decision-making power to release the video to the community. We want to know what individuals make up this equation. What is their relationship to one another? Sheriff Graziano, we also need you to stand with our Black brothers and sisters. We need you to remember what you campaigned on. Back in September, when speaking about Black Lives Matter, you told the city paper, and I quote, "We are our own worst enemies when it comes to admitting that we don't always get it right and thinking that we know the answer to everything because we don't. I think it's an exciting time for law enforcement if you're willing to listen and be part of the solution. If you're not, it's probably going to be the worst part of career." End quote. Sheriff, you also said that a grant is not needed to find reforms that could be already implemented. So now we urge you to take immediate action. We urge you to take ownership of your department's inactions and abuses of power. You've told us you don't have control of the budget. Well, we urge you to publicly call on the Charleston County Council to fund community programs aimed at reducing incarceration. We urge you to publicly ask them to fund mental health programs. Remember when you were asked about what would you have done differently as law enforcement in response to the death of George Floyd? You said that the answer was pretty simple, that you would have walked with the protesters. In the same post on the city paper, you recalled a conversation with a friend who happens to be a Black pastor. When you asked for his advice, he told you not to remain silent. We urge you to listen to our Black brothers and sisters and make the changes to this department that you have known for a long time needed to be made. Center the community. They had your back. Mayor Summey has already tried to walk away from this by shifting blame to you entirely, but he too continues to be part of a system that oppresses Black and brown people. Listen to the demands of my colleagues and urge your colleagues to do the same. I want to end with this quote. This is not the time to lead with a gun, a baton, or tear gas. Now is the time to lead with the heart and soul. That quote is by then candidate Kristen Graziano. Sheriff Graziano, we hope that you keep those words in mind and share the sentiment with your fellow law enforcement colleagues.
Thank you, Fernando. I think you'll hear from a host of others following me that will outline this issue just as well as Fernando just did. You'll also hear our list of demands and what we're truly asking for. We have a statement prepared, but I'm here to just express sentiments that a lot of folks in Charleston, specifically African American and Gullah Geechee folk here in Charleston, have been echoing for generations. Enough is enough. Whenever there is officer-involved violence or an officer-involved shooting or a death similar to Jamal Sutherland's death at Al Cannon, our law enforcement agencies tend to hide behind other agencies and all of the other bureaucracy, lies, and empty promises. And we need transparency. I'm tired of hearing our elected officials and our law enforcement leaders tell us and promise us transparency while spending more than the 60-day allotted period investigating the death of Jamal Sutherland and yet not giving us access to the footage that would show us what led to Jamal's death at Al Cannon, footage that would show us what happened as he was apprehended and brought to the jail, footage that would show us what was the altercation about and why was this man being dragged to a hearing that he had every right to refuse. He was brought to jail while he was in mental health distress for a misdemeanor, a charge that could have been treated with a ticket. He could have gone home or gone to another healthcare facility that was better equipped to handle someone in his state of mental distress. Yet he was brought to a jail. If there was someone, maybe a suspect was perhaps shot or stabbing and bleeding, you wouldn't take that suspect straight to jail. You take him to the hospital, right? He'd be handcuffed to the bed, right? What's the difference? Why aren't there mental health resources available for people like Jamal Sutherland? And I want to make something quite clear. We are not going to let not one powerful mayor, not one police chief scapegoat any other member of law enforcement. It's not just a Graziano issue. This is not just even Al Cannon issue. This is a Luther Reynolds issue. Mount Pleasant PD has something to atone for. CPD has something to atone for. SLED has something to atone for. And how they hide behind all of this red tape and lie to us and give us this drip and drab of communication that's inaccurate. We learned from the Slager trial that we cannot take cops at their word, right? So this is not just about Graziano. This is about a system that is hell-bent on hiding the truth whenever black people are killed at the hands of police. And let me just say this too. This is not just a black issue, as evidenced by the James Britt incident in Mount Pleasant. So we know that cops are killing folks with impunity and justice is not served. So this is a call for justice for all levels, all municipalities involved, and especially here in Charleston, when we know that our police department is circulating information, reassuring the business district, reassuring members of the CVB that their businesses will remain intact because they're going to ramp up police presence instead of doing something that Fernando alluded to, making sure that there are enough resources to keep people really safe and not just protect wealthy business owners and not just protect the crown jewel of Charleston, which is tourism. Enough is enough. We need resources and attention paid to the injustices that all of the black community at large has faced for too long. We've already got the results from the CPD. We know what's going on. It's here in it's in Mount Pleasant. It's here in Charleston. It's in North Charleston. These disparities have had to come to an end at this moment right now. These disparities have to stop. Period.
My name is Marcus McDonald. I'm speaking on behalf of Charleston Black Lives Matter by standing in solidarity for everybody who's spoken before me and everybody who speak after me to call for justice for Jamal Sutherland. We've been shouting justice for his name since this incident happened, and I do want to say this one thing in regards to a lot of elected officials and law enforcement who've been calling for unity. You had 5 months since this happened, and it's too late. We will not take submission for progress. We will not take conciliation for progress, and will not submit without justice. And we demand that the law enforcement officials and elected officials who have been calling for this unity do something about it before it gets to this point. Because we always get to this point, and then there's another commission or another board that they want to put together to get us all to unify. We already had a health and environmental justice board. They didn't give us a dime or any type of support. If they really wanted to solve these issues, they would have been done it. And that's what I've been telling them, and that's why I say it's too late to reach out to us now, because you know the videos coming out, and you've seen the reaction of a lot of the law enforcement officials on King Street, even this past weekend with the press conference with the mayor and the chief, just speaking on us as like we're the issue. We're not trying to solve these problems, these societal issues, because it's bigger than, you know, the unfortunate death of Jamal Sutherland. Mental health is a huge crisis in the black community, and especially with police brutality. 30 to 50% of police-involved misuse and violence is involved with people with disabilities, and that affects us all. My own mom is deaf. I don't know what I'd do if a cop didn't understand what she was saying and tried to attack her or shove her out the way. This can all affect us, and that's what we're telling everybody now. This happened here. This happened in Al Cannon Detention Center. I know all of us ain't perfect. Some of us been in that same center, get processed the same way Jamal Sutherland did, and nobody deserves to be treated like that. A mental health disability or acting out or getting angry, none of that deserves a death sentence. And that's why we're standing up for our brother Jamal Sutherland, and we're standing up for the family. We demand justice, and not just with this one case, but systemically with the mental health crisis here. There's not enough mental health institutions, and a lot of the times cops get called for these sometimes when people have outbursts and stuff, and that's not okay. They're not trained to do this. No amount of training will train them to do this. We need professionals to deal with these situations like they have in other places and how we know it works. They're armed, and a lot of the times, like I said, they're not trained for these issues. So again, we're demanding justice for Jamal Sutherland. We will not take submission for unity. Again, thank you.
I'm Luann Rosenzweig. I am a member of Kahal Kadosh Beth Elohim, the Jewish synagogue downtown, and I'm also co-president of the Charleston Area Justice Ministry. CAJM is an organization of 39 congregations, and we represent over 10,000 people. We are a member of the People's Budget Coalition and stand in solidarity with all the people and groups here that have relentlessly fought, some long before CAJM was established, for transparency and accountability of our police departments. CAJM came together because our different faith traditions call us to do justice. We are to want for our brothers what we want for ourselves. Jamal Sutherland was my brother. In my tradition, we are called to repair the world, and our community is tired and angry about the resistance that accompanies any attempt to repair the world. We call on all recordings of Jamal Sutherland's death to be released, and we stand in support of every demand this diverse coalition calls for with regard to accountability from this horrific event. There were many times that the right intervention could have happened. Intervention that would have resulted in Mr. Sutherland receiving the care that he needed. Palmetto Behavioral Health could ensure that they had the necessary staff and procedures to prevent patient fights. Palmetto Behavioral Health could have refused to press charges. NCPD could have used their discretion and taken Mr. Sutherland to the hospital instead of the jail. The staff and police officers at the Al Cannon Detention Center could have refused to accept a man clearly in a mental health crisis. the problem is that we cannot trust these systems to act in a godly, loving, and merciful manner. They are not designed to show compassion, to show empathy. Therefore, the community, all of us, must step up and take further control of these systems. We call on the community to join us in this work. You are the key to the transformation of our community. We must work together and repair this world. Let's begin with the police departments.
Good evening, greetings. My name is Letitia Amara. I'm from Black Liberation Fund here in North Charleston, South Carolina. I stand as a representative, not just from our black community, but also for the voiceless of the incarcerated, previously incarcerated, and those affected by the incarceration system. Now, when it comes to Jamal Sutherland, we need to say his name. Jason Cooper's as well. Okay, we also need to say the name of every last single person that has died by the hand of this system. Just like Tamika said, this is systematic. This is across the state. COVID-19 has overtaken communities, especially the incarcerated. Jamal Sutherland's, his was a mental health incident that turned into death. And these things happen regularly. We've got to start holding our lawmakers accountable. Now, we were made promises to vote for certain people. We were made promises that things were going to change. And now we are here still 5 and 6 years later, after Walter Scott, still dealing with videotape footage. Now, they know this videotape footage is part and parcel of what we're here for. Now, we demand that that be released in full, because we all know without that footage, Michael Slager would have never been held accountable and liable for what he did and what was attempted to be covered up systematically. Now, incarcerated people often face the challenge of not having a voice. They are not humans, and we have got to give their voices back. Jamal can't speak for himself right now because they have done the ultimate to him. Now, this is to keep anybody else from ending up like this in this situation. Now, we've had Joyce Cornell that has also died in the detention center. Now, we've also had so many others here in Charleston County, North Charleston, and Berkeley County. We have got to hold Solicitor Scarlett, as well as anybody else who will attempt to use the SLED department as shields. We are not having this anymore, okay? So this is where we stand in this moment. And we would ask all of you, hold your lawmakers accountable. Find out what way they voted. South Carolina just voted to have a firing squad, which means they don't even see incarcerated people as humans. So let's take this system at what they're giving us. This is important. We must do this for our children. I have 2 sons, and I refuse to ever see them have an episode like this and end up like this. My heart goes out to the families and all of those other families whose names we cannot say because they have covered it up so well. All right? So thank you, and I will go to the next person.
I would first like to extend condolences to the family of Jamal Sutherland. My name is Donna White. I'm a behavioral health therapist here in Charleston, South Carolina. I've practiced for over 15 years, and I have seen the impacts of mental health and criminal justice system and how they intersect on a daily basis. I'm also the Associate Director for South Carolina for Criminal Justice Reform. South Carolina for Criminal Justice Reform is a nonpartisan grassroots organization dedicated to achieving holistic criminal justice reform in South Carolina through research, education, collaboration, and advocacy. The true measure of any society can be found in how it treats its most vulnerable individuals. Mahatma Gandhi. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and the tragic death of Jamal Sutherland is yet another example of how our criminal justice system is gravely unequipped to respond to social issues. When someone has a drug addiction, what happens? They get arrested. When someone is forced to sleep on the street, what happens? They get arrested. And when someone is having a mental health crisis, what happens? They get arrested. Arrest and jail have become the natural reaction of law enforcement and lawmakers in handling our country's most difficult problems, with too often painful consequences. This one-size-fits-all solution is no solution at all. We know these actions create a revolving door in and out of the criminal justice system, with disparate impacts on minority communities and financial burdens on taxpayers who pay for jails and prisons. We stand with our partners in demanding full transparency from all agencies involved in this and all other incidents, and we are committed to working toward a more equitable and sustainable justice system that truly treats all individuals with dignity and the compassion that they deserve. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is April Richardson. I am the South Carolina coordinator for Black Voters Matter. I'll keep my statement brief, but I'm here representing my organization in support of everyone who's spoken before me and to come after me. As an organization, a huge part of what we do is asking our community to come out and make their voices heard when it comes to their elected officials. Unfortunately, what that also means is that we have to step up and remind them that that means holding those elected officials accountable, particularly when they don't do the very thing that they have been elected to accomplish. We shouldn't have to be standing here holding an entire press conference for justice to simply be served. Equal justice under the law is all we're asking for. It's simple. If there was an incident at the detention center, then that video should be released so that the public can be reassured that if you're saying everything happened according to the book, it's evidence. It's why we pay as taxpayers for these body cams, for this footage, so that when incidents like this occur, we can get clear and concise answers. 5 months is too long under any circumstance, but particularly after we've already been promised multiple times that it's only going to be a 60-day turnaround for these reports to be completed and to be entered in. I shouldn't have to stand here and beg on behalf of anyone's family that justice be served. We're here for Jamal Sutherland. We're here for countless other names, known and unknown. But we're here for the people that fear every day that this might be the turn for them, for that knock to be on their door, for them to not know why their loved one is no longer here with them. Black voters matter to us because at the end of the day, we are people. We are people that are asking for the same civil liberties and civil rights that everyone else in our community has and has rights to. It's a simple request. Treat us fairly. Treat us with equity. Treat us with respect. I don't want to do this again. I don't want to have to come to a place like this again. But I know that if things remain the way that they are, I will. And that's what we fight for every day. Not just to get someone to walk to a ballot box, but for them to feel empowered to call their legislators to task, to call local law enforcement to task, to call anyone to task who calls themselves a public servant. Because that means you serve us. We hired you. You have a responsibility to us. Thank you.
I'm Emily. I'm with the ACLU of South Carolina. I'm going to read the list of demands that we've come up with as a very diverse, wide-ranging coalition to every department or law enforcement related. Lowcountry Behavioral Health must release their policies and procedures around handling those in active mental health crisis. Furthermore, clarify what situations warrant a mental health institution to call law enforcement to detain a patient in distress. Independent after-action review of Sutherland case for all entities involved, including Palmetto Mental Health, North Charleston PD, Sheriff's Office, Solicitor, and SLED. The Charleston Police Department, North Charleston Police Department, and Charleston County Sheriff's Office must protect the First Amendment right and limit interaction between officers and protesters. The increased police presence in downtown Charleston has coincided with the public backlash to Jamal Sutherland's death, and to that end, all local policing agencies must commit to recognizing the constitutional right of Charleston residents to assemble in response to this tragic incident. Create a 3 violations rule whereby correctional officers who violate the code of conduct are put on unpaid administrative leave. Ensure that all records of correctional officers, complaints, and disciplinary actions at Alcannon are publicly available on the sheriff's website. Ban the use of solitary confinement, restraints and metal chairs, stun guns, pepper spray, tasers, and batons on those who are in a mental health crisis while at Alcannon Detention Center. For longer-term demands, we ask the redistribution of the Charleston Sheriff's Office budget request beginning in 2022 fiscal year of Graziano's term, and aim it at building alternative public safety infrastructures. Advocating for the reinvestment of those funds into services including education and mental health services, especially in communities that have historically been over-policed. Support efforts at the municipal body level within Charleston County and the state legislature to end the deployment of law enforcement to nonviolent 911 mental health calls. Ensure that mobile crisis teams are adequately funded and able to arrive at calls without law enforcement presence. Ensure all incarcerated people have access to quality health care, including mental health care. Specifically ensure that access to prescription medication while incarcerated, as well as providing sufficient supply of medications upon release to ensure covered until a person can reasonably be able to make an appointment with a doctor on the outside. Agree that any deputy that engages in unlawful behavior, i.e. undue use of force, incorrect use of deadly force, sexual harassment, civil rights violations, etc., will be put on unpaid administrative leave pending the investigation. Require that all correctional officers receive mental health and de-escalation training yearly. Establish an independent community advisory board, including county residents and impacted community members that meet regularly with the sheriff's office and have the authority to subpoena and review data, inspect jail facilities, make recommendations on law enforcement and jail policies, practices, and responses to incidents. And that's it for our demands. I think that closes us out. So thank you guys for coming, and a big thank you to all of our community partners who've come out today. Appreciate it.